Say, you about ready, Aaron?
Sure, let's do it.
Let's give a big round of applause and welcome to Chef Aaron Staudenmaier.
Well, thank you all for hanging out and waiting and doing the thing. We're going to jump right into this, and we're going to kind of set it up and figure it out as we go along. How's that sound? Cool? All right. I'm also going to talk while I'm working. I am a super formal person, so if you have questions, yell, shout, throw things, whatever, all of the above. So we are making bacon bourbon crackerjack with Texas pecans. This is basically if you ever want to be the most popular guy at any party, guy, girl, person, human, at any event you ever do, this is the stuff you bring with you, and everybody's going to go, oh my God, you're a genius, and you're going to love it. There are a couple of pitfalls with this recipe, and we're going to cover those because this is really one of those simple, straightforward things that's hard to screw up. We're going to start off with bacon, slab of bacon. Use good bacon if you can. In that recipe, there's a thing that says liquid smoke, optional.
Liquid smoke, yeah.
The reason that is optional is because, the world is really expensive right now. Use cheap grocery store bacon, add a little bit of smoke, make it taste good. This is applewood smoked bacon from Newski's. It's awesome, it tastes good. You don't need liquid smoke, so we're not using it today, right? Y'all see this piece of bacon? There's a little tiny, skinny, baby piece of bacon. Don't be the bacon guy who's like, oh man, if little pieces of bacon are good, I'm gonna throw half a pig in there. Don't do it. Because you know why? Little pieces of bacon stick to little pieces of popcorn. Big pieces of bacon sit at the bottom of the bowl and are never seen again. You know what? This is a lot of bacon to put in a pan. It's going to disappear, then you're going to be really sad, and you're going to be like, oh, caramel corn was delicious, but I didn't get any bacon. Don't do it, okay?
He's almost like chiffonading that bacon. It's so tiny. Like, whenever I cut bacon, it like mushes around, and I can't get a good slice on it.
So we're going there right now, actually, but thank you for that segue. That's awesome. So if you want to cut bacon, you want bacon to be super pretty. First of all, don't leave it in your car for 2 hours while you're driving in to do a cooking demo. That's step one. Step two is put it in the freezer for about 15 minutes. You want it to be as close to frozen as you can get it, and still cut through it safely without losing your fingers. So your secret to awesome bacon is cold bacon. The colder it is, the more solid it is, the easier it is to work with. The other one is buy good knives, keep them real sharp. That'll save you a lot of work. We're going to cook some bacon for a second while that's kind of doing its deal. This is the part we usually do before you all show up. So, bacon's cooking. If you notice in that recipe, it should say something about soft and rendered for your bacon, right? So rendered just means cook it until some of the fat comes out. Soft means soft, right? Soft doesn't mean I like crispy bacon, so I'm going to cook this stuff until it's black, carbony, and super done, right? There's a reason for this. Don't be basic, dude, I'm going to cook my bacon extra. It'll be awesome. Don't do it. Because if you notice the last step of that recipe, it says put it in the oven for an hour. Do you know what happens to crispy bacon in the oven for an hour? You get ashes, and it's not good, okay? So you want this stuff cooked just enough to kind of soften some fat and make sure that it's going to get crispy and awesome at the end. Anybody that's worried about, hey, do I cook that enough? It doesn't really matter, because you all know another name for bacon, for raw bacon? Flat ham. Okay? There's no such thing as raw bacon. You can grab it, you can eat it, it's delicious. It's just ham in a different shape, right? So don't be scared. You're better in this recipe to undercook this a little bit than to overcook it. Cool?
Yeah. Mm.
So seriously, raw bacon, like, can y'all see this? This little guy right here? Where am I going? That little guy right there, he's ham. So while that's cooking, we're going to make some stuff. We're going to take black pepper. Black pepper's important because it's delicious. Salt's important. Again, also delicious. Couple of things that are in here. So this is smoked paprika, okay? Smoked paprika is not the stuff Grandma puts on deviled eggs. Smoked paprika is heavily smoked and spicy. If you don't have smoked paprika, you can use a little bit of cayenne and refer to your notes on optional liquid smoke, right? That's why that's in there. So if your bacon's not quite smoky enough, if your paprika needs to be a little more cayenne-y, it's all going to work out okay. A little liquid smoke will help you out. This is baking soda. Anybody know what baking soda does to hot sugar? When you add baking soda to hot sugar, it causes it to foam. When it foams, it's really easy to work with. It's really easy to coat popcorn with because it's light and airy, right? You got to work with it pretty quickly before that foam dies, but that way you're not pouring hot liquid caramel on all this fluffy goodness. You're pouring foam on it, and it's easier to stir and work with. So there you go. Speaking of sugar, that's a whole bunch of brown sugar, carefully measured. I'm sure that's the right amount. It'll be fun. All right, that is corn syrup. Corn syrup. Corn syrup's scary. All the labels, all the you're making bacon caramel corn. It's going to be okay. So every class, somebody asks me something to the effect of, if I bake that or if I change this recipe, can I make this a little healthier? Can I make this is, let's repeat that, bacon caramel corn with pecans in it that are boiled in sugar.
So you cannot
there
make it
is no healthy version of this. The healthy version of this is go get you some pecans, ignore that whole recipe that you've got that calls for all that sugar and spice and salt and deliciousness, throw that away, eat the pecans, and go home. Or I can interest you in a bowl of unseasoned air-popped popcorn.
Yes.
Very healthy. It's good for you.
So we have a question. If we did not have corn syrup, could we substitute maybe maple syrup or molasses? Like, we're just thinking maybe we've got all these ingredients in our fridge at home, but we don't have the corn syrup, and we want to make it tonight.
So if you wanted to make this with some other kind of syrup, you could. So here's where your challenge is going to come in. I use corn syrup specifically because it's pure sugar, right? There's no water in it. Maple syrup, molasses, agave, honey, all that stuff has some percentage of liquid water left in it, right? So in your last step, what you're doing, the reason you put this stuff in the oven is to dehydrate it, right? So you have to be careful using other syrups because you want to make sure that you're not adding extra water, right? Yes, you can do it. Your last step in the oven might take longer, and you want to be careful what it looks like when you coat it, okay? This is vanilla. Vanilla is good. If you want to add a little bit extra, go ahead. Don't add too much or you'll wind up with a candle. Or your caramel corn will smell like candles, yeah. This is bourbon. It is from our fine friends down at Garrison Distillery down in High, Texas. If you've never tried their stuff, you should. They're awesome. They're super fun. Don't get crazy. Don't say if a little bit of bacon is good, more bacon's better. More bacon is better. Giant chunks of bacon, not better. This little splash of bourbon, super good, going to give you some flavor. Half a bottle, going to give you popcorn soup. This says boil for 5 minutes, don't touch it. It's been 5 minutes-ish. What you're really doing here is you're waiting for steam to stop. So if there's any liquid, anything in here, this is the part where you're getting rid of water, right? These are candied pecans, right? Actually, you should call them spiced pecans because they're full of cayenne and black pepper and all kinds of goodness. So sugar, water, sweetness, cayenne, black pepper. If you don't want to go through the process of making candied pecans and you're like, damn man, that seems like a lot of work, it is. So you go out and you buy some awesome roasted peanuts, you get some spiced nuts. There are probably 7 million places in the fair right now where you could get a nice bag of some kind of tasty, delicious, spiced, nutty something. Use that instead, right? If you don't want to make pecans, don't do it. We're going to go ahead and throw in our vanilla. We're going to throw in our bourbon. I'm going to turn the heat off first. Sugar boils at a temperature above water, right? Sugar boils at about 350 degrees, so when you add liquids, it tends to react semi-violently. Don't stick your face in it. Use a pot that's high enough, okay? That's going to boil out of there pretty much instantaneously. We're going to take all this. Some of this is goodness, some of it's baking soda, right? Baking soda, cool chemical, works good. Whoop! As soon as you start to stir that in there, you get sugar froth. Cool, right? Now, if there are recipes out there, I will tell you there are some that are super cool that call for making caramel, adding baking soda, and then you pour it out on a sheet tray, and it makes honeycomb. It makes like aerated candy. They work, and that's why they work. Every one of those recipes is going to say, use a huge pot. That's why. It's because it doubles in size, right? Legal disclaimer, this is really hot. Don't lick it. And don't stick your finger in there to find out what it tastes like.
I know, I really wanted to do that. I was like, I bet that's...
You know...
What if we poured it into a pan and just like made it its own like bar of its own thing?
About once a year, I'm making something like this and just absent-mindedly do the little bloop, let's find out what that tastes like. Then I spend 3 months healing and I don't do it again, and then, you know. Now, if you don't add your baking soda, you're basically pouring liquid over popcorn. You ever over butter your popcorn and it turns into that sticky, squishy mass of goo? That's what your baking soda is going to do, is allow you to get this fluffy, right? Other pro tip, you're going to kind of aim for the edge of the bowl. So that way you're never kind of just dropping a million gallons of sugar straight onto the top of your popcorn. All right, so you're going to get something that looks like this. Now, if you're like me and you really don't have any patience, you can take a bowl of this and fire it back and it won't hurt you. There's nothing in here that's not already pretty darn tasty, right? It's super gooey, but pretty good. Now here comes the hard part. We're going to take this. We're going to put it in a large container. Did I lose anybody on that step? That's the tough one. Actually, the tough one is find a bowl this big and start with that. If you have a regular oven, you're going to want to stick that in your oven somewhere between 250, 225, 250. Basically slightly over the boiling point of water so that it actually starts to dehydrate and get crispy and good. You are not going to want to put that in at 350. You cannot say, man, I don't have an hour. I'm just going to throw that in at 400 and see what happens. What's going to happen is that you'll be black on top, raw on the bottom, and terrible. And just throw that pan away because you just burned 1,000,000 pounds of sugar to it. Before it fully cools, you may want to break that up a little bit, or you may want to just have a giant candy bar. Do you, man. Have a good time. Either way, works out just fine. You can take that, you put that in a Ziploc, Tupperware, airtight container kind of thing. It'll last for about 2 weeks, as long as you keep air away from it.
Did the alcohol burn off during that? I mean, it really wasn't that much whiskey to
Sure,
begin
it'll be
with.
fine. Alcohol evaporates right around 78 degrees, which is why if you just leave a bottle of whiskey open, you come back and you don't have any more whiskey, and that's sad. This pot of sugar, when that goes in there, is about 375 to 400 degrees. The lifespan of alcohol in that pot of sugar is about 1.6 seconds. So
Yeah.
you should be pretty safe.
So we're getting the flavor, but not the alcohol, so you don't have to worry, folks.
So couple of pointers. It doesn't have to be the super freshest, like I just made this 10 minutes ago popcorn. The thing you're looking for is you want it to be as unseasoned and not oiled as possible. Don't use buttered popcorn, because I think in the recipe it says use an air fryer or an air popper. The reason we do that is because if you coat all of your popcorn with butter and then try to stick caramel to it, caramel doesn't stick to butter, and it is like trying to throw water in a sideways Teflon pan. You end up with a puddle and greasy popcorn.
All right, folks, let's give Chef Aaron Staudenmaier a big round of applause.